Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. A couple of days ago I posted a video on how I cut up an old beam into figured turning blanks. Now, two of the small ones ended up not as bowls but as this little cross-grain box. So that's what you're going to see on this video. These are two of the blanks which you see in the video I made on cutting up an old beam. I didn't know then that it was forest sheoak, but I do now. And they've been, I was thinking of making them into little bowls, and I thought, no, maybe a box. And so I'm going to make this cross-grain box. They're drilled with a Forstner bit so they can go over these long-nosed jaws. So the first job is going to be to get them round and to get rid of any remnants of these little splits. Now there's splits there, and that comes up to about there, but depending on, well, we'll see what I'm left with when I've taken all the defects away. And we'll start off with the lid section. I don't need all that rest, so let's get the shorter one on. And as always, I'm going to rough this down using a 1/2-inch spindle gouge, which is what I always use on the outside of these facework. And I can hear that running smooth. Yep. Just take a look. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. There's a little split just there, which this is going to be a lid. It's not going to be an issue. I need to just true up the top, finger underneath the rest, push the tool forward. Just using the wing of the tool and soften that edge, because that can be dangerous. Now, coming across the bottom, I need to mark where the bottom, there's a lump there which might just fly off. Oh, it's really looking, oh no, I was going to say it's looking quite clean, but I can see that comes up to there. So we'll take the whole thing down to there for a start. I'll take most of it down and see what's left. So this is going to be a lid, so the tenon I've left here is going to be some form of a knob eventually. So what I'm looking for is any splits. Right, there's a big one there going into there, so that's pretty well across the middle, so that needs to come out. Not going to mess around filling it with epoxy or super glue or anything, it's just not worth the effort. It's quicker to get it off anyway. Could leave that as a little lump in the middle if it's clean. Yeah, we'll just keep that for the moment and see what that might be useful later. So another tenon, and all I need is a nice sharp corner in there so the jaws have something to butt up against. It doesn't matter if this bit's curved or not, this is face work, it just needs to get the jaws truing up. That will be fine. We'll get the other blank on. So again, true up the side first. Don't go racing off the edge in case you splinter it. And in from the other side. So have a look and see what the wood's got in store there. So there's a split coming across there, and there are these little ones, so that needs to come off down to there anyway. And there's little bits almost in the middle, so the whole lot just comes off. Now, rather than put the rest around there, it's easier to handle the tools when it's across a bit of an angle than your hands here, rather than sitting out here. It's just more convenient. Using the wing of the tool. And that needs a better cut so that you can see exactly where the splits are. So we'll just do that with the scraper. I'm going to have to get in front of the camera and have a good look at that one. In fact, I'll take it off and have a look. No, that looks pretty good, because what I'm really after is a square-sided piece, and so this is pretty much where we are at the moment with the shape. The next task is to make the base first, so that can go back on, and I'm hoping that will just fit straight into a chuck, but if it doesn't, let's see what we've got up here. I've got a whole lot of dividers already set. Don't want it down to that diameter. Might do that, but I think I'll just do it with teeth marks on, then that gives me a chance to show you something else. So I'm going to flatten off the bottom, and I'll grip this just around the rim. There will be teeth marks which I'll have to turn off later. So all I want now is this to be flat. Be it, and we'll be coming back to this later, so I'll true this up a little bit. Just want it smooth, or in fact probably it's easier since I had that in my hand to have done it this way. Right, so the outside of that done, sanding it later. That's going to fit into the step jaws. It'll just sit right back into the bottom, and as you'll see here, there'll be these teeth marks which I'll have to take care of later. There'll be more teeth marks now. Don't make enough of them, they'd be decorative, you could leave them. So that will be that, and I will move the camera so you get a better view. The first thing is to flatten off the top, 1/2 inch spindle gouge again. Just use the wing to true up the rim. Go across into the middle. Yeah, I always forgot, I need to mark the diameter of the diameter of the lid on the face, so that there I am. So with that, a bit of a meal of this. Right, so that's the diameter of the lid, which if you can't see that, there is there. So I'm going to have a shape which comes in, so I keep the base as wide as I can and just reduce the, what's the architectural term, batter the wall in. So I'm trying to get my finger underneath so I've got more control over the tool. And if you're inclined to push the tool hard into the wood, this will definitely slow you up. The trick of turning really is to, you're holding the tool in the right position, so when the wood comes past, you get a shaving. You're not here to push tools into the wood. If you like doing that, go and take up wood carving. Right, next thing is to drill a depth hole using a 1/4 inch gouge. That's the best use for it. I find these too flexible for doing any actual gouge work with. So I'll go down just about to the, see where I've come into the teeth. So that would leave me, if I come halfway between those two grooves, I'll be, I'll have about 3 or 4 millimeters in the bottom. Which 2 grooves was it? Those 2. I'm going to hollow this initially with a 1/4 inch deep fluted bowl gouge. I like to get down to the bottom as quickly as I can so I can see where all the other cuts are going. I need a bit more light in there. And I'm going to have a flat bottom here, and I've got to undercut the rim a bit, and the easiest way to do that is with the it's a 3/4 inch square end scraper, only it's not square end, it's very slightly radius this way. So I've got a nice sharp corner and radius so that I can't get both the corners into the wood at once. I'm going to use about half the edge at one time. I'm watching what's happening over the far side. I can't see what's happening without leaning right over. Just check that for see how it is in the bottom. One advantage of gripping it this way that I've got quite a good gap there, so I can get these calipers in, or at least I could if they didn't have quite such a big spike. So I'm going to have to take this out. Feels pretty good, but you'd probably like to see how good. So I'm just adjusting the wheel there. doesn't sound right, which is more important. Yep, so it's about 3 millimeters. What's that? About 1/8 of an inch. So that's okay. Now this might be running out very slightly, in which case we'll just true it up. Nope, that's good. And I can see little ridges in the bottom, so it's going to, normally with this, I forgot to look here, normally with this, if you go down very gently with this wood with a square end scraper, that'll be clean enough. Better is to go down with a spindle gouge. So I'll use the 3/8 spindle gouge. Starts on its side, roll it slightly anti-clockwise, off down to the bottom, and I'm right into the corner. And then to clean out the corner, easiest way is to do it with a skew on its side, using it like a little negative rake scraper. Negative rake scraper is something I don't possess. Don't think you need them. Right, feels a bit ridgy, so I'll just go over that again gently, using the middle of the curve on the 3/4 inch. So you can just see where the dust is coming off. And that's making the right kind of noise. You might, yeah, that's the right kind of noise. The rim is tilted slightly in. I do that almost automatically without thinking. And this now gets sanded. I'll start off with 180 grit. And I'm going to have the dust on. Give it a little go with the paper just to see what's see how the wood's going. That's all right, except that in the middle I've got a little ring of some sort, a little bit too deep with something in the middle. Probably looks far worse than it is on the camera. Gone. Okay, so little teeny bit of picked up grain there, so sand that in reverse. In reverse. .320. Just put beeswax on this. Out the end of the wood. And this rag, this old sock, has a fair amount of wax in it that's boiled linseed. My real trouble is I can't get right in the corner easily. Well, so that comes off. Now to finish that, that's going to have to go over another chuck. This is why it's nice to have a collection of chucks, so that you've always got don't have to change jaws the whole time. That unfortunately doesn't go quite as... I was hoping we'd go over those jaws, over the jaw shoulders, but that'll be out to there. Now this shouldn't mark the wood because that's smooth in there, but what I use is a small bit of non-slip cloth, which I should have had prepared but didn't. Right, so this is going to wrap around. I don't need all of that. The nice thing with this stuff is it stretches a bit. Don't need all of that either. Just a long thin bit. I've got to be very careful not to tighten that too much. That is a little bit kind of rocky because the it is slightly spongy with the material there. So that's already dished. One thing I don't need to worry about. So all I'm really concerned with now is getting the teeth marks off. I was just looking for my 3/8 spindle gouge. And just stroking the surface. The camera wasn't across the lathe bed, I'd get up the tailstock. It made it a little bit easier. Now I'm going to put a bead on the bottom, and that's going to be taking the tool. There's a little video on how to do these. It just goes round in a little circle. And it's not quite sure what it's doing just up at the top here, so I'm going to use the 1/2-inch skew as a scraper, as a negative rake scraper. Heaven said I don't own any. This has got a slight radius. I've got a burr now on the top, and that will just allow me to sneak into there. And continue the curve I cut with the gouge earlier on. Now, if it's easier to do it with a long point, turn the tool over and again hone what will be the underside. Actually not an advantage in that case, just a little bit too awkward to get in there. And I'm also tilting this tool up on edge, so it's really shear scraping up onto the bottom of the bead, and I'm going to use the point of the tool just to get in on top of the bead. Okay, and while I've got it here, I'll put a couple of grooves in. I don't think I risk one in the middle in case it is really a bit thinner than I think. So, confirm that. In with the 180 again, go to the same grips. There's a little bit of torn grain there, so I'm going to have to get a fresh bit. So that's the base done, and if nothing else, I've got a small kind of straight-sided bowl. Right, so that's going to get a lid on it. So that will fit into here. And I need to know the diameter of the, so I want a small tenor now, which is going to fit inside the lid. So I'll be fixing one point and watching the other. Just true that up, 3/8 spindle gouge. You need to establish the diameter within which you can hollow. Otherwise you can get into major strife. So cutting this out with the 3/8 spindle gouge. Good time to practice those cuts, because it doesn't matter if you stuff it up, you've got a bit of wood to play with. Right, I can just take that in a little bit further. Tools right on that side. And as I come out, the left wing is virtually shear scraping. Nice little curve underneath. Right, now I can hollow on the inside. Check that again. At this stage what I want is for that to go on and that to spin, which it does. That's good. So what I need now is the inside out and some kind of decorative detail which I can expand the jaws against so I can grip it when I turn it round, so I can complete the top. So that was the 1/4" spindle gouge, and what I'm looking for now is a round nose scraper. Ooh, that's the one I would quite like to use all the way. Just about do it. This might be a better weapon. Is a 35mm, and really for doing deep hand grain. It's not a bowl scraper. And I use that one rather than this one, because I just have to move that one a bit further, whereas the wider tool, it's much easier to gauge the surface I want to cut, the curve, in relation to the curve which is just inside of what I'm trying to do. Now I need to get some kind of little recess in there, which I'll use the got the radius on the 1/2 inch skew, and I've forgotten now which side I'd use last. So anyway, I've honed what will be the underside. Rest got to come up so that the tool's pitched down. And come in about there. And I've just stuffed up the inside. So and do it again if I'm not careful. Just turn this over, I think, and just get this point in there. Now I can actually see better over the far side. I'm going to have to lean right across the camera to see what's happening here. So the aim really is to have a feature I can grip with the chuck, which doesn't look like a fixing point. I've got a deep V groove in there now. It's a relatively deep V groove, so I can probably just clean the whole surface up with that one. 180 grips into the end there, into the middle rather. So that's the inside done. Almost. Try and get a waxy bit into the corner there. That's it. This will now turn round onto those jaws, and this is what we've got at the moment. So I'll probably go for a little kind of pavilion shape, I think, on this one. So 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Better check I'm not running out of wood. Nope. Now you can't have anything too thin in the way of a finial on this, because it's a cross grain and the wood won't cope with it. There's a bit of lift on the underside of the rim there. just get a little bit of a curve in on the top. That won't fit in, so I can tilt it up and shear scrape around. And it would be nice to have a little kind of gutter, if you like. It's a long time since I've done a shape like this, so I'm quite sure what I'm going to do with the top. The nice thing with a skew is that you've got this little side bevel you can use. Let's just see how that's looking. You look at it from there, I'll look at it from over here. This sweep really needs to go definitely out and over the wall. If I've got that gutter there, it kind of relates and doesn't quite relate properly to that bit, so I'll just go straight out, I think. And don't know what to do with the top, dome it somehow. Now I can also do that with a, just drop the rest of it because it's going to be a bigger tool. You can do it with this scraper, which is the 1 inch, which I might even do it with my, there's the 1 inch brown nose. Tilt it up again. The shavings you can see coming off from there. I'm going to get a bit of lift on the underside too. I'll do that with the wing of the 3/8 gouge, spindle gouge. Right now, up on the top, we're going to dome this bit first, and dome that bit. You can't have anything too pointy up there because the wood just won't cope with it. I'm going to have a dome with a very small kind of bump on top. Yep, needing to look alright, just drop the rest of it and get in there with a scraper. See what that looks like. Yep, lift it off all right. Actually wondering about putting a curve in there. We shall see. We'll get this done first. $320. So that's okay, but it would look a lot better if something was happening down here. So that's going back on the lathe. I'll need to go and find a bit of wood, rather than I can't get close enough to the ready to do what I want to do there, so I'm going to have to make a chuck so I'm further out, and so I just have to think about that for a few minutes. So for the record, here's what we've got now. I don't really like this curve here. I'd like to see maybe a little bit of decoration or something in there, and a bit just taken out. Just, it needs something doing to it here, because this just doesn't look right. I might stuff it up, but you've got to take these risks, otherwise you'll never get anywhere. So I'm going to take a little bit out of here. It's around 3mm thick, 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. But my solution is on the Vicmark shark jaws. They've got these kind of soft teeth, and that means that I can slot, which I often do with boxes and things. You can just seat them into the teeth, and it'll generally jig itself up quite nicely. Got to be very careful not to tighten too much, because it might split. And need to get some light over the top, which I hope doesn't flash out the camera too much. And I'm going to get at it with a shear scraper. This is actually an old converted 1 inch by 1/4 inch scraper, and I've rounded over the side so it'll slide up and down the rest all right. And I'm aiming to get in with that, and first I just want to get a little bit of a curve on. And I'm standing off to one side in case it flies apart. So just trying to get little curves in. It doesn't need much to make a difference. That really doesn't like it too much. I'm going to try the spindle gouge. And I'm standing this side of the, go towards the camera now. You can see where the dust is coming off. And I can still watch the upper horizon up here from where I am. I've got a bit of a curve already. And now I'm just going to ease this tool in and just get a little ridge there. Now, having done that, that's given me a little bump. That's the last thing I want. I'm going to come in with the 3/8 spindle gouge. Sand that. We'll see what it looks like. I don't really want to take it off and look at this stage. I'd rather sand it first. But we'll see a little bit of eccentricity where there's a little bit of run out, but that'll all sand together. I'll do that with 120. A bit too wide. tempting to remove that bead altogether, but just run this in reverse. By that bead I mean the bottom one. Right, 180, 40. Right, and we'll now see what we shall see. Right, well I think that's an improvement. Still not amongst the best boxes I've done. I think that lid could come out a wee bit more, but pretty harmless. It'll do, a harmless little box.